we are going to be talking about Jonathan Taylor's performance against Buffalo on Sunday for a really, really, really long time. Last year, we had Tyreek Hill against the Buccaneers, and we had Alvin Kamara rush for 6 touchdowns on Christmas Day. 2018, we had Rams Chiefs on Monday Night Football. 2016, we had Julio Jones dropping 300 on Carolina. In 2003, we had Clinton Portis. Jonathan Taylor's game against Buffalo Sunday was a pure thing of beauty. We are watching a monster in the making. Is he going to win MVP? Probably not. Is he the Dynasty 101? Unquestionably. Is he the best young back in the NFL? Unquestionably. In 22 and 23, we're supposed to have all these great running backs: Bijan Robinson, Brees Hall, Isaiah Spiller, and I think Jonathan Taylor is going to forefront this new era of football we are in as far as the running back position. I want to take you guys back to the middle of November last year, and there were a lot of people concerned about Jonathan Taylor. There were a lot of people already touting him as a bust, saying that, oh, it was so easy to see, saying that he got thrust into that role too quickly. A bunch of people taking victory laps for saying that Jonathan Taylor was not going to be as good as, people thought he was going to be. I don't know. But I did make a video last November, and I titled it, "We Need to Talk About Jonathan Taylor," because despite the fact that we all knew he had all the talent in the world, anyone who watched him at Wisconsin knew that he had all the talent in the world. He rushed for 6,000 yards over his college career. I believe that is sixth most in college football history, and he did that without a senior year. He ended up being drafted in the second round by the Indianapolis Colts, and the crazy thing is, he was not even the first running back taken in his own draft class. That draft class was absolutely loaded, and the draft order was as follows. It was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was handpicked by Patrick Mahomes, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson, just banger after banger after banger. But while all those guys have kind of tailed off after their rookie year, Akers and Dobbins have both been hurt. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is, not what we thought he would be. Antonio Gibson just cannot get the trust of his coaching staff. It seems like Swift and Jonathan Taylor are head and shoulders above the rest. And in that video I made last year, I detailed the fact that if Indianapolis wanted to win games, their only solution was to not keep feeding Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins. I'm sorry, Nyheim Hines is a decent player, but the only way that they were going to go on a run last year was by feeding Jonathan Taylor. And guess what? They started feeding Jonathan Taylor. Now, last year, if you remember, they straight up lost a game against Pittsburgh because Frank Reich decided to abandon the run. Week 16, Indianapolis Colts versus Pittsburgh Steelers. You can go check on social media, on Reddit, on whatever, to see what people were saying about that game at the time. And the common theme was that, yeah, the Colts abandoned the run inexplicably, and they literally lost the game because Frank Reich refused to use Jonathan Taylor. But Jonathan Taylor's usage last year was just baffling all around. I don't know why they drafted Jonathan Taylor in the second round. Keep in mind, they traded up to get him, but were so insistent on, a committee, Nyheim Hines, Jordan Wilkins. And yeah, I get it. You want to keep your running backs fresh. But with the rookie running backs, especially last year, COVID offseason and all that, the only way Taylor was really, really, really going to find his mojo was by getting the rock. When he got drafted to the Indianapolis Colts, everyone was like, oh my God, amazing landing spot. Guy runs a 4.39. He has Zeke and Saquon level athleticism. And it felt like Zeke to the Cowboys all over again, except this time Jonathan Taylor was taken in the second round, not fourth overall. But everyone was like, oh my God, he is going to light it up. Marlon Mack went down week 1, and Taylor got his opportunity maybe a little sooner than he should have. Vision, particularly, was not exceptional when he was first there. And yeah, Marlon Mack probably hit some of those holes. You can go back on Twitter and look at some of those runs that we saw from really, really, really young fetus Jonathan Taylor, if you will. But Indianapolis' run blocking line last year was not as good as everyone had hoped. So, the sky-high expectations for Jonathan Taylor last year were not met immediately. Therefore, a lot of people were contemplating as to if he was a disappointment. But any sensible person who watches football knew that, yeah, Jonathan Taylor was their best chance to win football games. And now this year, he has rushed 193 times for 1,122 yards. That is good for 102 yards per game. And then what we like to see is that efficiency, 5.8 yards per carry. Now, I need to double check and look this up. Okay, I thought it would be best in the NFL, but it's not. But considering the guy in first is Lamar Jackson, I don't really know if that counts. But second is Nick Chubb. And that was who Jonathan Taylor was actually most compared to coming out his rookie year. 32 receptions for 322 yards, an average of 10.1 yards per reception, 2 touchdowns, and a 76-yard reception, which came on Monday Night Football against Baltimore. To say he has been insane this year is entirely selling him short. The fact that he plays in the AFC South is going to do absolute wonders for his stats across his career. And when we talk about Indianapolis since 2017, since Chris Ballard took over, you think about Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, and all those guys up front that they tried to emulate what the Cowboys had. Chris Ballard has said multiple times that the game starts up front, that they need to build the trenches, and they have invested heavy capital into the offensive and defensive line since Ballard took over. But of all qualified running backs, according to PFF, Jonathan Taylor has enjoyed the 32nd highest run blocking efficiency in the league. That is mediocre at best. Like, that shows you that the Colts O-line, that's not me saying the Colts O-line is bad. That's not saying it's good. I actually don't know how many qualified running backs they have for that stat. What you can draw from that is that Jonathan Taylor, he's not a product of a system. He's not a product of a great O-line. I mean, he has Carson Wentz as quarterback and Michael Pittman as wide receiver one. No disrespect to Pittman. I think he'll be a great player. But the supporting cast they have around him on offense is not fantastic. And even when the Buffalo Bills did game plan for him, and even when the Bills did try to game plan for him, did try to game plan around him, did try to stop him, he did not care. Jonathan Taylor ran 11 times today against 8-man Bills fronts today on non-goal to go plays per PFF. He gained 54 yards. So he averaged nearly 5 yards per carry against loaded boxes. That's like 8 guys within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. That shows that with Taylor's ridiculous performance Sunday, the Buffalo Bills were committed to slowing him down, to stopping him, to neutralizing him. But it didn't work because he's just that good. 3 more stats according to PFF. Jonathan Taylor among running backs, 1,122 yards, best in the league. 13 rushing touchdowns, best in the league. 30 runs of 10 plus yards, which is first in the league. Most forced missed tackles on runs in 2021. Jonathan Taylor is second in the league, only behind Javonte Williams. And wow, Javonte Williams has 58 less carries than Jonathan Taylor, so this is more of a Javonte stat. So yeah, I love Javonte too. But yeah, Taylor's second in the league in forced missed tackles. According to Player Profiler, JT also has 10.1 yards per reception and 8.1 yards per touch, which is good for 5th in the league. 1.96 yards per route run, which is good for 11th in the league. I actually think his numbers last year were better, but I think that was a combination of Philip Rivers being his quarterback last year and just always checking it down to his running back, always having insane efficiency, and the fact that Carson Wentz is quarterback this year, which kind of limits his whatever you want to call it. But when we look at his efficiency, this is just where it gets flat out ridiculous and borderline orgasmic. So he has 5.2 true yards per carry, 6.4 yards per touch, 13 breakaway runs, 119 evaded tackles. His juke rate is 52.9%, 979 yards created, 4.35 yards created per touch, and he leads the NFL with 15 touchdowns. I don't need to be the one to tell you that we are watching something special right now. But why am I making this video? Is it to take a victory lap on the fact that a year ago I said Jonathan Taylor would be fine when a lot of people were saying that he wouldn't be as good? Yeah, a little bit. But I'm also making this video to let out a warning to the rest of the NFL. Jonathan Taylor has arrived. He was one of the best college running backs of all time. And in a league where running backs are not glorified due to the fact that they're deemed as easily replaceable, Jonathan Taylor is probably the best offensive weapon in the league right now. I say that all due respect to all those great receivers and all those great running backs. If Derrick Henry doesn't get hurt, we might be having a different discussion. But the fact is that Jonathan Taylor is the future of the league. Even as one of JT's biggest supporters in April 2020, May 2020, I drafted him in the second round of my Dynasty League, which was seen as a huge reach at the time. but I was one of his biggest supporters. And even as one of his biggest supporters, he has blown away all my expectations. What he is doing is absolutely incredible. I'm not gonna lie, I love Javonte, but I'm a little bit jealous that my Broncos waited a year on a running back when we could have picked up JT in 2020. Does he develop the same way? Highly up for debate, because he needed some time to develop. And we thought originally that Indianapolis would be the perfect place for him to develop. And yes, it has, but it's not because he's running behind some god tier O line. It's not because Frank Reich is some offensive genius. It's just due to the fact that he is a genetic freak. He is a monster among men. Jonathan Taylor is a phenomenal football player. I can't wait to see the rest of his career ahead of him, and he is a monster in the process right now. Enjoy it while it lasts.